Hey, welcome to the Good Place Marionville Podcast, dedicated to highlighting the good happening right here in Marionville, Missouri.
Today's episode will continue our commitment to showcase the goodness in Marionville, uniting our community through shared stories of hope and optimism. So let's cover some of the good again this week. Today we're going to welcome our very special guest and president of the school board, Brad Wilson, to the podcast. We will get to know Brad and learn more about the school board goals and accomplishments in just a moment, but let's cover some city news. I want to start with just saying, of course, that this is the last week that we'll be talking about voting for the election. Next week, when we come on the air, the election should be over. Let's hope we have some results.
Let's hope there's no hanging shads in Florida. That's all I got to say.
But I just know that early voting is underway, and the county website has all of those details. So I'll put the link in the show notes. Just encourage you to study the ballot and really be prepared for your vote to matter. And in fact, we're going to talk about that in just a minute.
Martha and I voted yesterday, Tuesday, and all up in Mount Vernon at the county courthouse.
Yes.
And all the poll workers were super helpful, very kind. Remember to pay attention to the wording of the amendments. We'll be talking specifically about the school bond with Brad Wilson in just a minute.
Also in city news, join us in welcoming the newest city staff member, Marionville resident Erica Pierce. Erica has been hired into the position that Debbie Bateman is retiring from. I'm not saying she's filling her shoes because that's just not going to happen. It's going to be new shoes for Erica to wear, and she's going to take her oath of office at the November Alderman meeting. So I encourage you to come and attend and welcome Erica to the city position.
And that's the second Thursday of every month at the Alderman meeting downtown next to the firehouse. All right, it's our pleasure to welcome School Board President Brad Wilson to the Good Place Marionville Podcast. Brad, thanks for joining us today. Talk to us about your family and how long you've been in Marionville.
I've been in Marionville pretty much my whole life.
Pretty much, or yes, the whole life?
Whole life.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Have 4 kids. My wife, of course, she's heavily involved in school too. She's president of the Booster Club, Athletic Booster Club.
Awesome.
How many years you guys are married?
Hey,
ooh,
hesitated.
Let me carry the 4, 17 years. Okay,
yeah.
All right.
The hardest question of the day, right there.
Have 1 kid left in school. He's sophomore.
Is he hopeful for the football team?
He plays football and baseball. So yeah.
Nice. All right. Good.
He is a sports fanatic, I guess you could say.
Nice. All right.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so you have 4 kids and your last one is in school now. So you've been involved in the school system as a parent for a lot of years.
Yeah, coached Mighty Mites, youth baseball, youth basketball for probably 10 or 12 years, I would say, total. Been on the school board for a little over 10 years now. I think I have a year and a half left on this term.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, but
they'll let you know when it's time, right?
Yeah, they'll tell me when it's time to go. But been involved in the school for a long time, just trying to make things better and help kids out. And
well, being new to town, we can tell you that the schools are phenomenal. The reputation is phenomenal. The complexes, when first time we walked into the high school complex, like, wow, this is really nice. So very proud of our schools right here in Marionville. Martha.
So, Brad, tell us about what you do for work, because I think it's always good for people that maybe they don't know. I don't know. So why don't you share with us what it is you do on your 9 to 5?
Yeah, since it's not New York City and you don't make $180,000 a year being a school board president.
I've worked for the state of Missouri for about 21 years, I guess, total, and worked for the Missouri Department of Corrections as a probation and parole officer now. Done that for 6 years now, I guess. Was with FSD for 15 years before that.
What's FSD?
Family Services.
Okay. So you probably bring a lot of those skills into your role as school board member. You're like, okay, no, we're not going to go for any of that, silliness or whatever the situation might be. So that's great.
Yeah.
All right. So
we actually met you at our garage sale a couple of years ago when you were running for school board. Must have been rerunning for school board.
Yeah.
So that wasn't your first time because you've been in for 10 years already. Why did you decide to get involved in the school board?
I just felt like that there were things that could be done or progress that could be made, and I wanted to be a part of it and I guess be there for the kids. I know, I'm not there really for myself. So what I tell people, We don't get paid. Everything I do is basically to try to better the town, better the school, better for the citizens, and better for the kids.
So in the 10 years you've been on, do you think you've made a difference?
Done a lot in the 10 years that I've been on school board. Before, like we've started the before and after the comic care, before and after school program while I was on there. We've got an SRO officer that's at school all the time now. That wasn't there before I started. There's been security upgrades to the classrooms and schools that weren't there when I started. Built on some new buildings. We've got a tornado shelter at the high school now that's band room / tornado shelter. So we've done a lot, I guess, in the time that I've been on school board.
You know, it's interesting to hear you say some of those things because they're not necessarily things that I would think that the school board would be involved in, but you really have a decision-making power. Is that where it lies?
Yeah, that's true. And I had people, you know, it's been in place for several years now, but there was a need for daycare in this area because there was no daycare centers in Marionville. And so people kept asking about it. And I'd kind of researched. Republic had a before and after school program, and Nixa had a before and after school program. And so we kind of got that information together and molded our own, I guess you could say, out of their programs and instituted it into the school. And I think it's helped a lot of parents out.
I'm sure it has. So that's actually great to segue into our next question, because there's a very important yet relatively unknown school board bond election proposition. And I think it's Proposition Kids on this year's ballot that we already voted for yesterday when we were at Mount Vernon. Can you tell us about the bond, what it's for, and how it's going to help the schools?
Yeah. It's $4.3 million bond issue. It is a no tax increase bond. Your taxes will not go up.
Wait a minute. How do you have a bond and have it not increase our taxes?
Well, you basically are renewing the bond or the tax that's already in place.
Okay.
So it doesn't increase your taxes. You're just renewing the one that's already in place. So there's no change to your taxes. People aren't going to see an increase. Well, there's a lot, like if we can get that passed, there is a lot of stuff we can get done to upgrades at the school. And
like for what? Well, can you think of some things?
We're going to create an early childhood education center. The one we have now, we've kind of outgrown our space. So the way I understand, we're having to turn kids away, which means we've got kids that aren't getting into preschool that could be getting into preschool and getting a head start on learning, and we don't have the space. And so as far as whether I know there's been question of whether we're going to build or whether we're going to revamp, like that's options we have available. It's not been decided yet what we're going to do. Like we're going to have to look at facilities we have, see if they're being utilized to their best ability, and then make a decision as a school board whether we want to utilize an existing building or build a new building. But those are options that we have in place. That's one of the things. Improved upgrades to security for the school, like as far as entryways, things like that. A baseball and softball field at the high school, which is...
You guys have a lot of acreage there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of land out there still that can be utilized. And kids have always kind of wanted their own field. I know we've always had the park, and that's been great. But I think we're one of the only schools in the area that doesn't own our own baseball fields and has to utilize the park. So... those among other things, you're gonna see facelifts to some of the stuff. Like, may just be a new coat of paint or some new metal on a roof, but it's going to make things look newer, nicer, and
But we need funding for that, and that's what
Correct.
this bond does. And
Yes.
you said before we went on the air that it's like a 57%. Vote yes, needed vote in order for this to pass. So,
do you know why it's that? That's kind of weird. Like normally you just need more yeses than nos.
It's I can't remember what the percentage is exactly. It's different in the spring than it is in the fall. But we decided to go ahead and run it in the fall. But it's 57 point. I want to say it's like 57.6. There's like a decimal on it. I think that it has to be.
All right. So give people that encouragement for this vote.
Yeah, I think it's important that if you want to see improvements and changes and upgrades and more space for kids to get into school earlier, that you go out and vote yes on the bond issue next Tuesday. And another thing, I think it's important that for these kids that are going to high school here now, like we want to grow Marionville and improve it. And if these kids they're getting ready to be adults and graduate and be out in the world. And if they're proud of their town and proud of their school and proud of their facilities, I mean, they're just important citizens that we don't think about as important as citizens as the adults here. But if we want to keep them here and have them grow their families here, then they need to want to stay here.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's so huge. So I know by talking to people that the Marionville residents are very grateful for the wonderful school board that we have. But a lot of us don't really know what you guys are working on. So you've said some of the things potential for if the bond passes. What other kinds of things are currently on your agenda that are going to help plan for the future?
Right now, we've been looking into changing lighting to LEDs throughout the entire school. People don't realize there's a ton of grant money out there if you go find it to pay for some of these things or help pay for some of these things. So one of the things that's been talked about is changing LED to LED lighting to where it could potentially save, thousands of dollars in the future once you get that paid off. Talking about doing a facelift to the small gym next year at the school. There's been a lot of stuff that's already been done within the school, painting and painted a new mural at the school to make it look nicer.
That was at the elementary.
Yeah, at the elementary doorway there. Just kind of things like that to, I guess, fix things up or make them look nicer to, show some pride. And
We love that. As part of the Marionville Economic Development Advisory Committee, we want to see Marionville continue to thrive and grow in its ability to flourish, and having great schools is part of that conversation. Brad, take a minute and talk about how the citizens can get involved. Tell them the best way to support the school board and how they can get involved.
Number one is going to be to go out and vote yes on this bond issue next Tuesday if they want to see more improvements. School board meetings are monthly and they're open to the public. If anybody ever wants to know what's going on, what's being done, how money's being spent, you can always, if you have a question, you can always ask a board member. There's 7 of us that are on the board. Come out to football games, and see the kids perform. The band's there, the kids are there. We've had a lot of good sports programs this fall. Our cross country team was successful. Our volleyball team was successful. Football team is successful. And then, we've had some of the highest APRs for academic achievement.
What does that mean? APR? That sounds like annual percentage rate. Isn't that's like what you get on a bank loan? And the APR today is
it's annual performance report, which is the academic achievement, a subgroup achievement, college readiness, attendance rate, and graduation rate that's used by the state to score your school and its success. And like our school has been one of the top in the area as far as scoring an APR for several years now. So
that's excellent. Well, those are great things to be reporting. And we do try to report on those on a weekly basis. When I have my reporters sending me in good news. So Brad, is there anything else that you want to address or just say to the citizens that are watching today's show?
I guess, you get it anytime you want, get out and come to a board meeting and you'll see kind of what's going on, what the current events are, what we're talking about, what's planned in the future. Mm-hmm. They're open to the public.
When are they?
It's the third Wednesday in the month, I think is what it was.
And where do they hold those meetings?
It is in the Middle School Commons building.
Middle School Commons, third Wednesday of every month.
Yeah.
All right.
Excellent. We'll put that link in the show notes too, to where that is on the calendar.
And put it on your calendar. That's right. All right. Now, I heard there's no school on Friday, November 1st. Is that because the teachers don't want to deal with sugar coma? Is that what they're dealing with?
Possibility. I actually think it may be an in-service or something like that.
An in-service day, so they don't have to deal with kids and the sugar
planned for the day
after Halloween. I get that.
I think that's actually pretty brilliant, if you ask me. So, in other school news, Brad, you just mentioned what a great fall Marionville has had in the sports area. Congratulations specifically to the varsity football team for going undefeated in the season, and just encouraging them to enjoy their bye as they prepare for the playoffs.
All right, Brad Wilson, President of the Marionville School Board, thanks for joining us today on the Good Place Marionville Podcast, our 25th episode. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Wow, it was a fantastic conversation with Brad Wilson from the Marionville School Board, President of the Marionville School Board. I just encourage all of you, get involved. If you got some extra time, sounds like they could use some volunteers with some other parts of all around the school. We've got a great community. It was great to just get an update about the schools.
Yes.
So here's some amazing news that came out of the fire station this past week.
Yeah. So a few short days ago, Jim, you were involved in several large fires, and one of them was south of Aurora near Highway 39 and TT, and it consumed a pasture, a barn, and 600 bales of hay. So the good news is that was very sad that happened, and all of the fires that have been happening because of the wind and the dryness. But the Carmichael Farms posted a need on Facebook for the Maddox Shellen family, and they started a hay drive to help replace some of the 600 bales that were lost during the fire. This need was actually fulfilled, and it's only been a couple of days. I just want to congratulate the community for pulling together, helping them out in such an amazing way. You're all so amazing and incredible. Thank you from the Maddox Shellen family. And, they did the hashtag Farmers Helping Farmers, and that's really what it's all about. So great news.
And it's been another busy week for the Marionville Volunteer Fire Department. It's been dry out there, so please wait for some good soaking rain, which they're saying we're going to get, and some calm days before you do any burning. Don't burn your leaves. Don't burn your garbage. And I'd like to say a personal thank you to all of the first responders who serve here in Marionville. It was National First Responder Day on Monday. It's a pleasure to serve with you, and we are so grateful for your service to all of us.
That's right. So news around town. I just wanted to highlight that, Jim, you and I this week did a little bit of curb appeal improvement at our new building right next to Central Place by painting some of the trim on the front of the building. And I'm just excited that the windows are ordered, and soon the front is going to be closer to restoration. I just want to encourage you to drive by on our back alley as well and see the old arched window that we've uncovered. It was shuttered up and cemented over. So we just really love uncovering those pieces of history.
It's a lot of fun. Stay tuned to the gathering at Central Place. All right. Smart Insurance chose their star teacher winners for 2024. The winners are Jennifer Shook, who teaches special ed at Verona, and Ashley Grubbs, who teaches 7th grade ELA at Marionville Middle School. Smart Insurance will be delivering items directly from their Amazon wish list to their classrooms this week. Thank you to Lauren Lehman and Smart Insurance for giving us this information.
Today's podcast episode is sponsored by the Bank of Billings.
Technology is ever changing. That's why the Bank of Billings is working hard to update their offerings with better online banking, mobile banking, updated ATMs and ITMs. What's an ITM? Stop in at Bank of Billings and ask them. If you're having any trouble learning or connecting with these updated services at the Bank of Billings, go see your local banker. Just walk in, they'll help you. They'd love to help make this all a seamless transition. Remember, they're a member FDIC and an equal housing lender. And we are grateful to the Bank of Billings for all their community support and for sponsoring the Good Place Marionville podcast.
All right. It is Halloween this week. And I just want to say the Comic Closet has lots of costumes to dress your kids up. They're only open a little while longer today, but it is amazing how this town supports each other, even in these fun celebrations.
Speaking of Halloween, please be safe while trick-or-treating. Make sure to have adults accompany children. Stay in lit areas. Take a flashlight. Consider adding reflective tape or glow sticks to your costumes to make sure kids are visible on the road. Also, let's work together to teach others to pick up trash and not litter.
Yes.
And save some of your Halloween candy for the day after Halloween. Don't eat it all Halloween night. Although I hear that there's no school on Friday, so you can have that sugar coma into the next day.
There are a few locations that are going to be having candy for trick-or-treaters. So I wanted to highlight Word of Life Church. The Ozark Manor on the corner of ZZ and Missouri Street is where they're going to be. And the pharmacy and also Marionville Power Sports all are going to be handing out candy. As far as all their times, you can go to their Facebook pages.
And get some candy?
Take a kid.
I'll take a kid. I'll take it. Yeah, if you want free candy, take a kid with you and have them smile. All right. Great show today. Again, a special thank you to Brad Wilson, school board president, for being our guest, and to our sponsor, Bank of Billings, for showing your support for the good happening here in Marionville. Consider joining the Bank of Billings by becoming a sponsor of this podcast. You could contact us at goodplacemarionville@hotmail.com.
Thanks to each of you for doing good in Marionville this week. We know it's contagious. And I also want to thank each and every one of you that contributed the good news to this week's episode. It's easy to report, so just send an email to goodplacemarionville@hotmail.com.
Did we give shout outs to everybody that gave us good news?
I want to shout out to our daughter, Sarah Norris. She encouraged us to talk about the bond election on the ballot. So thank you, Sarah, for that. I think that was the only one I didn't announce.
All right. Thanks for joining us on the Good Place Marionville podcast. Keep your eyes out for the good happening right here in Marionville, and together we can celebrate.